All right, moving on to another CNBC TV18 exclusive. The homestay company Airbnb has launched the Icons, a celebrity-hosted experience with stars like Janhvi Kapoor, Kevin Hart, Doja Cat and several others. On the sidelines of this event, Shereen caught up with Brian Chesky, who's the CEO of the company, and began by asking him about the future plans for the company. Listen in to what he had to say.
As we speak, we have 4, 5, 6 ideas that we're developing. They may not all ever come out. Sometimes you work an idea and it doesn't ever meet the quality threshold, you don't launch it. But I think a few of these are going to be hits, and you'll see them over the next few years.
I want to sort of shift focus to India now, because Airbnb has been present in India for a while. Yeah. You haven't been back to India since 2016. When are you coming next, and what's the plan for India? What's the aspiration and ambition for India?
The plans and aspirations are huge. It's now the most populated country on the planet. And the thing about India is, I mean, number one, it's got a great culture of hospitality. Number two, it's got a very young population. Why is that important? Because we're generally more popular with younger generations. They're not predisposed to hotels. Three, I think, they're very digital and very much online. And I think that is a strength for a digital-first brand like Airbnb than, like, say, a hotel. I think you're going to have, an emerging middle class that's going to. I mean, what is one of the first things that happens when a middle class emerges in the modern world? They travel, and they want to leave their country, and they want to see the rest of the world. And so my prediction is that Airbnb will boom in India. It's, an emerging market for us. We have very low awareness, very low penetration, but the enthusiasm is high.
The experience from turning unicorn in 2011 and then finally IPOing in 2020, and reports suggested that, you weren't particularly in favor of IPOing anyway, but going through that process, what did it teach you in terms of valuation, in terms of what you see as metrics to sort of define who you are and what you stand for, and eventually providing the exits that you needed to?
Before I went public, I was forewarned by a lot of CEOs, especially CEOs that were public. The number of people who tell me, don't go public, wait as long as you can, and these are people that were public. And so I think that we weren't against going public, but we were cautious. And we certainly weren't in a rush to go public. And I've been very surprised, because since going public, I thought everything was going to be different. It's not changed nearly as much as I thought. I mean, 4 times a year for an hour, there's an earnings call. You have to prepare for it. But, we have to write a shareholder letter. But actually, when we were private, we used to do that. We have an audit committee. We had an audit committee. We were private because we were really big. We have all these journalists that cover us, but they were covering us before. So I guess the point is that being a public company is probably really different than having a company in your apartment. But being a public company is not that different than being a late-stage private company. I actually think being a late-stage private company is almost like being a public company with all the downsides and none of the upsides. So I think it's easier to be a $100 billion public company than a $30 billion private company.
Really?
Yeah.
And remember, you can catch the entire conversation with the Airbnb CEO at 6:30 p.m. only on CNBC TV18.